So, are you DTFF?
Once again, here is Drinking and Talking Fantasy Football with your hosts, Dustin Lunt and Jake Trowbridge.
Hey, welcome back to the Drinking and Talking Fantasy Football podcast, everyone. We have got another jam-packed show here, continuing our divisional breakdown series. This week, talking about the AFC South. And to do that, we have got two very special guests joining us. We have got Gabe joining us in the Jaguars corner. Hello, Gabe. How are you doing?
Hey, yo, I just realized that I came on to another fan podcast or whatever. I'm supposed to represent the team and I didn't wear gear again. I'm such a horrible fan. My wife threw up this stupid hat with it. I can push the little ears and they go flippity floppity up top. So it's really cute. And I know, Jake. I know.
As amazing as that sounds, you're just going to have to use your words to express your fandom here tonight.
I'm good, by the way. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no,
Jaguars fan to the max.
Yeah, and then representing the Colts this evening, we've got Steve. How are you doing, sir?
I wish that I forgot my thing and that Gabe brought his, because the ears sound so much more interesting to look at than this old shirt. But I'm doing good, man. Excited to be on here, and I'll talk Colts all day. So I guess, talk about the other teams too. But, excited to get into it.
All right, great. And of course, with me, my co-host, Jake Trowbridge. Jake, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good. I'm ready to get into this jam-packed episode, an episode packed with jam here with the AFC South. So I'm pretty excited.
All right, well, let's get into it then. First things first, we always like to go around the room here, since it is the Drinking and Talking Fantasy Football podcast, and ask if our guests are drinking anything this evening. If so, excellent. If not, excellent as well. We don't care. But Gabe, you want to start?
I'd love to. I did read the show sheet. It was painful, and I was reading the show. I didn't know if it was required. Every single question was required, and it said beer, and I was like, man, I'm so full, fat, and tired. I got to switch it up. I got to hit a cocktail. So I had to ask permission, from Jake to do so. So I like cocktails. I did a little riff on the old fashioned. I hate when I love old fashions. It's probably my favorite cocktail, but sometimes I just don't. It's just too hot and the ice melts too quickly. So I like to just drink it neat, but you have to kind of do some things differently, I feel. So that anyway, a riff on an old fashioned. Got some Ramazzotti Amaro in it. Sounds like the Lamborghini of liqueur, but it's not.
That does.
$20 bottle.
I love that. How about you, Steve?
Yeah, so I don't always drink beer on a Tuesday, but when I do, I drink Gumball Head. This is from Three Floyds Brewing.
Nice.
That's
choice.
in Munster, Indiana. I'm from Indiana, Colts fan, obviously. But, it's an American Wheat Ale, 5.6. And since I'm an artist, I want to shout out the artist that draws this. It's Rob Sayers.
That can art is very, very dope. Mm-hmm. Love that.
It was pretty
they
rad.
all are for all the all those cans. They're all awesome.
For sure.
They got good cans.
Yeah, we get a lot of that here in Wisconsin. So I am a big fan of their beers.
I choose cans of beer in the aisle based on the artwork 9 times out of 10. Mm-hmm. So I respect a good can artworort.
Gotta have a good name too. Gotta have a good name.
Hopefully something clever.
Yep. One of my favorites that I stole the other day when I was preparing some cocktails. I said citrus got real, and I acted like it was mine. Oh. No one knew, but it was totally a beer. It was totally a beer's name. Such a good one, though.
There's so many beers out, though, that nobody probably registered that was, in fact, a beer. Or if they did, it went in one ear and out the other. And you got the recognition for it, I feel like. And that's what's important here.
It kind of hit, but they also thought it was really painful. Like, oh man, don't ever say that again.
I love that. They don't know what they're talking about. I love that.
You need to get new friends, Gabe.
Yeah,
That's right.
Thanks, guys.
And then Jake, tonight we are drinking. It's called the Hurricane Slushy. This is from 903 Brewers out of, where are these guys out of again?
They are
Texas.
Shermer, Texas.
I was gonna say I've had that brewery before. Yeah.
You really?
Yeah.
I've
they have
never
like a Tres
imbibed from
Leches stout or something. That might be it.
sounds
I don't know.
delightful.
I've had some sort of milk stout from them that was really, really good.
Dustin, we should get that next time too.
We should.
And really just double down on this.
I know.
We've been hitting the sour beers a lot, Dustin, lately.
I have.
Or
Well,
sour adjacent beers.
We're
so
hitting
that's
the
a
summer
sour?
months, so
Mm.
it's a
Yep.
Berliner Weiss. It's a Berliner
Curious.
Weiss. Yeah.
Curious about that flavor. What did you say it was called?
903 slushy?
It's a
Slushy.
hurricane slushy.
Slushy.
So it's got it's a Berliner Weiss with passion fruit, orange, and lime.
Ooh, that sounds delicious.
Love
Yes. Hold it up here to the camera. You can see it.
tasty.
It looks like orange juice.
Yeah.
And Jake,
Yeah,
you'll be
yeah,
proud of me. I actually read the can this time. It said, number 2, turn the beer over once before serving to redistribute any settled fruit.
Oh,
So,
no, I didn't do
look at
that.
me.
I'm going to get a fruit explosion at the bottom of this can. And that's fine because I did bring a reserve to wash it down with. Because, Gabe, I didn't want you to be the only one drinking a cocktail, too. So I made myself a little Deep Eddy lemon vodka mixed with some soda and grapefruit. So I'll be switching on and off here.
You are all over Texas tonight, big fella.
I really am.
The
I
Deep Eddy
own
vodka,
Texas here. You know what? I am the honorary Houston Texans representative
Yeah,
for this
yeah.
podcast episode.
Nice.
Don't say that. You don't want to be that guy. Come on.
Somebody has to be. It's going to be me.
Yeah, this is a tasty beer. I like this. You can really get that passion fruit and lime in there. Oh, it is.
I like
It is nice. Very, very
So
good.
go get it. If it's out in your store
Mhm.
nearby, go track it down.
Mm-hmm.
Dustin, do we want to move right along into our favorite segment here?
Yes, let's do it. Let's get into our drunk trade of the week.
Drunk, hammer drunk,
Drunk trade of the week.
This week's comes from @_Lex Luger. I hope it's the Lex Luger, but I really don't know. He says, had some margaritas last night, whenever this was submitted. So not last night, but at time of submission last night, and made an unnecessary deal in my dynasty league. Which side y'all like better? This is a 1 QB, no tight end premium dynasty PPR league. So here's what happened. Sent away George Kittle and DeAndre Swift. Received Najee Harris, Kyle Pitts, and a 2023 first round pick. So not a tight end premium, but 2 tight ends in the mix here. Gentlemen, what do we think about this? I just want to say, it looks like a pretty okay drunk trade from what we typically come across here. But Gabe, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on this trade?
I mean, is it okay to say anything against Kyle Pitts online or on Twitter at this point? I don't think you're allowed to. I think that's against the rules. Nonetheless, I don't really mind the trade. I mean, I think there are certainly a couple of question marks between Kittle and Swift, I guess, that people have pointed out here and there. And if it's some sort of rebuild, you have some pieces there. And the 2023 first, that running back class is supposed to be pretty stacked. So I don't mind it.
We've got one for no mind. Dukes, do you mind? Do you not mind?
I don't mind it at all. It really works for a rebuilding or a competing team. And you got basically each side gets 2 premium players, is how I look at it. You could argue that Kittle is better than Pitts right now. That could change quickly, though. And then Swift, he might be dealing with a tough coaching situation again, at least in the short term. And then I like what Gabe said about that class. 2023 is a good class. Bijan Robinson and all those guys they talk about. So Yeah, don't mind it at all.
Yeah, I don't mind it overall. The one thing that I question is the team that is giving up Najee, Pitts, and a 23 first. I mean, Najee and Pitts are both early first round picks, most likely. Pitts may be in the middle of the first, even in a 1 QB league. So this team was already probably in a rebuild mode unless they made some really good trades early on to get those future picks. So, I mean, if the team giving those 2 players up is in a rebuild, I don't understand getting Kittle and Swift unless you just love those 2 players that much more. But overall, it's a fairly even trade, I feel like.
Yeah, I think the margaritas could have steered him much worse into some more dangerous territory than what he came out with. I mean, I like it. Look, all of the fresh optimism of youth that you're getting back from Najee, even though I don't personally love Najee's situation like some do this year. And Pitts is going to be the best tight end in the last 3 millennia. So you're probably walking out of this thing ahead regardless. And the 2023 first could be anything, Dustin. It could even be a boat, like you like to say. So who knows? I really don't hate this one, Lex. If you are the Lex Luger, by the way, I would love an autograph. And if not, I would still take one.
No way. You think he does margs, though? I don't know. What does Lex Luger drink?
He's probably more of like a vermouth straight up kind of guy.
And drink.
Try it.
That's Lexi's decision. That is not for me to say. All right, Dustin, before we get into the meat here, I do just want to take a moment to let the folks know this week's episode is brought to you by Monkey Knife Fight. Look, you go over to monkeyknifefight.com, you sign up, you place money on an over or an under or a series of over-unders, and then maybe you win more money. That's as simple as I can make it. They have a gaggle of sports. It's a wonderful website. And if you sign up using promo code DTFF, they will match your initial deposit up to $50. Go to monkeyknifefight.com.
All right. Thank you, Jake, for that. So let's get into this here because I'm really excited to talk about this division and get your guys' thoughts on it. So we're going to start with what is probably the worst team in the division and probably one of the worst teams in the NFL at this point. Let's be honest. We'll start with the Houston Texans. They somehow finished 4-12 last season, 3rd in the division. So we'll go through quickly here just their losses and additions via free agency and then what they did in the draft. And then we'll just kind of toss it around from there. So they lost in the offseason here. Will Fuller, Darren Fells, AJ McCarron, I don't know if that does anything for you guys, and Duke Johnson. And they brought in a whole slew of who's of mediocre players. Tyrod Taylor, Andre Roberts, Phillip Lindsay, Mark Ingram, Jeff Driscoll, Pharaoh Brown, Chris Connolly, Chris Moore. They like the Chris's.
Can I stop for 1 second? Can I ask? Because, we always put these as notable losses, notable additions in the show sheet. And I want to ask, I want to check with our guests here. Out of the names listed, could you give me a number that you would put as true notable additions for the Houston Texans? Whatever that means to you.
I think
Dukes,
that they were just trying to go get every receiver with the last letter C to start his name. His last name.
Seems like they accomplished it. Now, are any of those C names, that sounded weird, any of those C names relevant for you?
One that's been there. Not
of the added players, or because
added guys, yeah.
Conley might be the 4, but that's not going to be very relevant for fantasy, so no, I'm not interested.
Fair. Gabe, how many are actually notable for you?
As far as additions?
Yeah.
That about sums it up.
I think I could say 1.5, but
perfect.
That's adding up 3 halves together.
Perfect. All right, Dustin. Sorry, I just really wanted to get a gauge on that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I appreciate that. So, and then in the draft, they drafted their could be QB of the future here with Davis Mills in the third, wide receiver Nico Collins, another C wide receiver there in the third, and then a tight end Brevin Jordan in the fifth. So let's start off the conversation here about the quarterback situation, since this is probably the biggest looming decision that will affect the team. Who will be the QB if Deshaun can't start? And how many games will it be before Tyrod Taylor gets injured?
I think that answers it right there. They better hope it's not Davis Mills. Like at any point in the first half of the season, that dude's just going to get completely obliterated. But I hope it's Deshaun. I mean, for the Texans' sake, I guess, and or I hope he can leave if he wants to leave. I don't know, but yeah, it'll be Tyrod. It'll be Tyrod as long as they can get him healthy, like you said, Dustin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I've got Tyrod starting the season, and then I think they're just going to struggle. Whether or not they blame it on him, I don't know, but they'll probably just want to get a look at Mills. So probably second half of the season, I could see that being a thing. Mills' season might come underway in the second half.
Yeah. So I feel like we're all in agreement here that Watson is not going to play at all this season, regardless of how this situation shakes out.
Yeah, between the relationship with the franchise and just what's going on other than that, no, I don't see it happening.
It's weird. I don't know. I'm certainly no legal expert. I don't even play one on TV, but I could see a world still just based off recent history where maybe somehow he ends up starting, but you're looking at like a 10% shot at it, maybe. And so I wouldn't bank on it. And then it's just gross for the entire offense because there's no Deshaun there. And so Tyrod Taylor, he's going to be something for somebody, but who? I don't know. Any guesses as to who would thrive? Oh, sorry, Dustin. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, assuming he doesn't play this season and that's all he's suspended or put on the commissioner's exempt list, however they're going to do it, do you think he comes back to the Texans then the following year, or do you think they take that opportunity to trade him and get whatever they can get?
Yeah, I think he's probably played his last game in Houston, I would think. Just looking from the outside in as far as that relationship solely, cannot speak on the legal thing at all because I just don't understand that. But Jake, I think you should try to go for the legal approach on some sort of bit on Twitter. I feel like you could do that.
So that's a good question.
Get the right lighting down and just like slam on the table,
Yeah, I think that's what they do in first round. Every legal advice commercial I've seen in the commercial breaks of Price is Right has something exactly like that. So I feel like I can use that as my model.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that idea. Wait, that idea was so good. What was the question again? I got so distracted. I saw what you were seeing with that.
Yeah, the question was, will Deshaun be traded, or is he going to stick with Houston?
Right. I haven't even thought much about this just because I agree that the situation is just so rocky there that I couldn't see him actually being on the field for them again. But they're going to be the closest to the situation. They might find a window where public knowledge is that he could become available to play in 2022, and then maybe they have a different feeling. Maybe they think that's a sell window. I mean, there might be a time they decide to trade him. That's all I'm really trying to say. They control the situation, and they've clearly added a couple quarterbacks that they think can hold him over while it all goes how it goes. So, yeah.
Do you want to say they just cut Ryan Finley? So I feel like that gives us some hope. Finley's out.
AJ McCarron.
Oh.
Pretty big. Just saying.
I've still been drafting him in best ball. I've still been drafting Deshaun Watson in best ball. Late. Extra late, but I mean.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
No,
I was going to ask, what round are you getting him in?
I was going to say that, I mean, the most recent knowledge I have, it would be in the eliminators that John Bosch is running. And those are obviously insane and crazy and wild. And it's super flex. So the QBs kind of, a lot of the QBs are going to go in the top 50. But I mean, he's going past that, probably 5th, 6th, 7th round. So, I mean, you're talking outside of the top 100 potentially, which in Superflex, I mean, it's saying something as to what people think about what will happen with him, and it's not a bad risk to take, outside of the top 100 for potentially your second QB or third QB or whatever that case is in a best ball. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's move on here to the running back situation, since they have the who's who of mediocre running backs there as well, with David Johnson leading the pack and then bringing in Philip Lindsay and Mark Ingram. So who do you guys think is going to end up being the lead back in that situation? And who do you want to have on your team for fantasy just this season? Dukes, we'll start with you.
All right. So I would say that David Johnson is the back to own still, but I could see it being kind of like a Lindsay is the named starter situation, and then Mark Ingram kind of subs in on early downs with him. But I think that Johnson is still the best receiving back there. So for fantasy purposes, David Johnson is the one to own. But yeah, it's just I wouldn't go for any of them if their ADP is too high, because who knows? It's just kind of a muddle and a bad offense. So what are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Gabe, what are you going to do?
I mean, I'm just hoping that for my one dynasty team where I have I think my starting running back is Philip Lindsay. We're going to hope that it's Philip Lindsay, but realistically, I don't, this is a mess. I mean, you're just going to, I think that Philip Lindsay will be on the field. I don't know, just as much as the other guys. Cause Mark Ingram was sharing the backfield in Baltimore forever and in New Orleans forever. So that's kind of what his role is. David Johnson kind of does a similar role. So, I mean, it's nice that they can have this balance of different backs, I suppose. And I think if one maybe goes down, I guess you never hope for that, then maybe there's some value there. But that would require Tyrod to be a little fantasy successful for us too. But it's just gross, man. I don't know. Stay away.
It's so gross. I was so bummed. I was hoping that David
gross.
Johnson would just be the guy there and they wouldn't add anybody of even semi-relevance. Because nobody's still going to want him. But I'll be able to get him as like a volume play later on in drafts. And now I don't even feel really comfortable doing that. My only hope is that David Johnson, at least though he's the pass catcher of that trio, which is kind of still gross. But so if somebody's going to get targets, I think it's going to be David Johnson, and they're going to have to throw it somewhere. So maybe I can still find a spot for him on my roster as like my RB5, Yeah,
if he's going super late, I'll take a shot on David Johnson because he could get receiving and goal line work. I could see that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and who knows? Maybe there's a little gas left on that tank there where he could flash a little bit. Not likely, but you never know. And Jake, speaking of receiving work here, who outside of Brandon Cooks here, and this will be the last Houston Texans question here. We can just move on from this grossness.
Why are we spending so much time on the Texans?
Because nobody's here to stick up for them.
And we have to ask these tough questions, even though it's really gross. So outside of Cooks, because we know he's going to be guaranteed for 1,000 yards regardless, because that's all he ever does. Which wide receiver is going to be fantasy viable, if any?
God. Do you guys need a rundown of the names again? Because we can do that. We can tell you.
And they have like 10 tight ends on their team too, right? That we're all still holding out hope for.
Correct. Kahale Waring season.
Yeah. Oh man, I like Nico Collins too, but it's just not going to be the year for him with what they've got going on. Ah man.
Yeah.
No,
So Brandon Cooks are
just
bust?
Brandon Cooks. Just Brandon Cooks.
Fair enough.
You can draft Brandon Cooks from this team, and that's all you can do. Let's go to the next team. Come on.
All right. We can
Really
do that.
quickly,
All right,
really,
we'll move on.
Dustin, we're Packers homers. I have to call out Randall Cobb is still on the team. If Randall Cobb is there in the last round of your draft, just take him. Just take him. He's been there. He actually knows the system and could maybe get some passes.
For dynasty purposes, I really like Collins. I was drafting him in drafts before the NFL draft, and I hated the landing spot so much. And then Kute is also rosterable in dynasty.
Oh,
So many names.
I know. All right, let's move on. We'll talk about something better here. And Steve, we'll give you the opportunity to talk about your Indianapolis Colts here in a moment. So they finished second in the division at 11-5, and they lost Jacoby Brissett, backup quarterback, and then to be determined yet, Trey Burton. They haven't re-signed him, but he isn't technically. He's kind of in this free agent limbo right now. And then they brought in Carson Wentz in the big trade, and then re-signed T.Y. Hilton and Marlon Mack, brought them back. And then for the draft, of note, in the fourth, they drafted a tight end, Kylan Granson, QB Sam Ellinger. I hope I'm saying that right, Sam. He listens to the podcast, in the sixth round, and then wide receiver in the seventh, Mike Strachan. So take it away, Steve, with your Colts. How are you feeling about your team?
All right. So this offseason, I mostly, the way I liked the offseason, how it went was the draft, the way that we got two dominant defensive players, but I know this is a fantasy podcast. So Carson Wentz reuniting with Frank Reich was a big story of the offseason for the Colts, and I love it. I think when I heard Wentz talking with Pat McAfee on his show, he was really loose and just kind of saying how he feels comfortable with Reich. They kind of have a very similar mindset, and he's also a country kind of guy, and Indiana is just about that. I can tell you because I live there. So he'll be just fine in that environment. It's not Philly. They're not going to eat you alive. They did boo when Andrew Luck retired. It was just emotional. It was just emotional. I don't blame them.
But they didn't throw batteries at him, and so that is a step up.
It is a step up. So we'll say, yeah, probably won't deal with that problem as much. And then I thought bringing Ty back was huge. He's still my guy. I think he's 1,000-yard receiver if he stays healthy. And I like the fit with Wentz because he is great at finding the open area of the field, and Wentz is going to move around a lot more than the guys that have been playing here recently. So, Ty could be a big steal in fantasy. And then Marlon Mack, re-signing him, I don't think they plan to, actually, because I heard Ballard was surprised that nobody signed him, and so that's why he's back. And then that kind of alludes to how I feel about JT as well. As far as the draft picks, I really like Kylan Granson, and they've been talking about him in regard to Trey Burton. They say a more explosive Trey Burton is what they're referring to him as. And I've heard him compared to now I'm drawing the blank.
Kyle Pitts. You can just say it. He's basically Kyle Pitts.
No, it was Jordan Reed.
Oh,
Washington tight end, yeah. So that's
hopefully
what
with less concussions.
Sure.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But as a player, if that's who he is, then that would be
that'd be awesome.
Pick. Yeah.
Yeah. So with Carson Wentz reuniting here, do you see him returning to form? Maybe not quite the MVP level that he was at, a few years ago, but certainly not expecting him to be the dumpster fire that he was this last season, I would think. I mean, he's got a much better offensive line, better offensive weapons all around. I can't really see him playing worse.
Right. Yeah. I think just the comfortability with Reich and the protection is the main thing, obviously. I don't have him winning MVP, but he could win another award. I think comeback player of the year could be in the cards for him. Saquon is obviously another candidate there. But if Wentz has a really good season, like I expect him to, I wrote down here 30 touchdowns, 3,300 yards, 8 interceptions. So 30 touchdowns would be second in his career. The yards would be like fourth. But that would be a good year, definitely numbers-wise. And he's put up great numbers in his career. So I think it's all possible for sure in Indy.
That'd be a great number for interceptions. If he only hits 8, I would feel very comfortable.
I was modest there. I definitely could have.
That's the Colts fan in you.
Hey, that's okay on this show.
You be unabashedly in favor of 0 interceptions. I do want to say, Phillip Rivers, of course, was there last year. I remember about this time last year, Dustin, I was like, oh, watch for the fireworks in Indianapolis because Phillip Rivers is going to have a top 10 quarterback season. I don't think I went that far, but I was really excited because he was behind the O-line that was going to save the world basically, and it didn't save him. But so what's the realistic range for a Carson Wentz finish here? And I think you're getting him pretty cheap in drafts still, but are we talking quarterback 1 level, top 12 finish?
Probably the end of that tier, I think, right on the 1 or 2. But where you're getting him, I think you're probably getting him as a value.
I like it.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I know you talked about Marlon Mack a little bit, and yeah, I thought it was odd he didn't go anywhere else either. I wonder if teams were just scared of him being back to his form with that Achilles injury. Do you see him hindering JT at all? Or eating into this backfield? I mean, how do you see this backfield kind of shaking out? Because JT really came on the second half of the season, much to our delight, being Badger fans here in Wisconsin. And then we saw Nyheim Hines, have his big games with the receiving work. How does Marlon Mack kind of fit into this backfield then?
To answer one question, I think, and I love JT, the work ethic and just the intelligence, his character overall, he's just an awesome guy. And I think that the Colts obviously love him too. That's why they were willing to let Mack walk if he got a big contract somewhere, but that didn't happen. He's a great player, and I think that the Achilles is just that word Achilles is so scary for a football player. But he's working back right now. They say he's ahead of schedule. So if he's playing this year, then I still expect Taylor to be locked into his workload just because he's a phenomenal player. My dynasty running back 1, because of that tier of running backs, he's the youngest. So plus I just love the guy. He gets a lot of yards for my team and touchdowns. So
I feel like that's not even a hot take these days. I think people are coming around to the Jonathan Taylor, maybe not 1 overall, but very close to it for dynasty rankings, and good because he deserves to be up in that echelon. Now, I need an unbiased take here real quick. Gabe, if you have to draft Marlon Mack or any of the Houston Texans wide receivers not named Brandon Cooks, who do you take in that situation?
This season, probably Conley, and I mean, dynasty is easily going to be Nico Collins, but Conley's not bad. I like Conley, former Jaguar. Hey,
oh, there you go. Okay, now it makes sense.
I was hoping that you were gonna. Yeah, all right. I was hoping that you were gonna. Excuse me, former chief, Chris.
Okay, there you go.
Does that sound better? I was hoping that you were going to ask for my unbiased opinion on Jonathan Taylor so that I could sneak by as a non-unbiased, whatever, Jonathan Taylor stan. Because I don't know if Duke's really got it like me for Jonathan Taylor, man. I mean, when you said 3,000 yards, 30 touchdowns for Wentz, I wasn't thinking Wentz. I was thinking Jonathan Taylor, bro.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh man, I'm so ready. And you got to
I hope 5 passing touchdowns to add on that.
Yeah. And as far as the overall RB1, that's fine to have him right now because that could literally happen next year. That's kind of a natural progression for that type of running back with his first year and his age and all kind of culminating together. That's entirely fine. It might not happen now, but it's okay to project those types of things for the future, you know? So I'm with it. JT all the way. I hate the Jaguars.
And just because of, again, just who he is, again, that's why I like him so much, because I know he's going to develop more.
The pass catching, I think, was everybody's big concern when he stepped in. It was like, oh, well, he can't catch a ball, so he's certainly never done that before. And then, like, they just shoved aside all the game tape of him actually catching these great passes. But, like, he's already shown that he can do it. And then now, of course, this offseason, I know it's just hype videos, but, like, they're out there and he's catching pretty good routes and good passes.
I think it was the wheel route that got Twitter all aboard the Dynasty number one train.
Not to mention his senior season, he specifically wanted to add that to his resume because he only had under 10 or so in his first couple, and then he got 20 some in his senior season. Like, I can catch the football. Like, it ain't nothing to me. So oh man. I love Jonathan.
And that's just always a function of the Wisconsin offense. They never throw to their running back, so it's
right.
All right, and then let's talk about the wide receivers a little bit. I know you talked about T.Y. Hilton. Is Pittman going to take the next step this year, and is it finally going to be Paris Campbell season? I've been waiting on this guy to bust out for the last couple seasons now, and it hasn't happened. So I really hope you say yes.
So I think the answer to that is kind of one answer. And I've always loved Paris Campbell. I watched him. My dad is an Ohio State fan. He's from Columbus. He was born in their Columbus hospital on campus. So he grew up thinking he was going to play for them. In high school, he got all mad because he didn't start because he thought he was supposed to start for Ohio State. So he quit after his freshman year or something. But yeah.
Put your dad on blast on the podcast. I love it.
No, my dad, he loves football so much.
Take that, Daddy Dukes.
He was a good player actually, but
Nice.
yeah, he had a huge head. Anyway, yeah, we were talking about the wide receivers. So Campbell is a really good player from what I saw just watching him at Ohio State. It's just he has just had so many problems staying on the field. If he does, so I also like Pittman and the way the coaching staff talks about him. So it's going to be kind of a balance there. I think if they're both healthy, people will stop saying we need Julio, and that's not going to happen just because I know how Ballard thinks. So stop saying Julio to the Colts. I think there's been a couple tweets now since that stopped people saying that. He's down to what, 2 teams now? Or
Titans and Patriots, I believe.
Okay. That's the latest, I think. Yeah. Anyway. Colts receivers, love them both as players.
Good. I'm excited for the Paris Campbell breakout to put an Eiffel Tower in my pants. High five, Dustin, for that great joke. Come on, that was a great joke. That was a god.
So I can run the world for 72 hours.
Any final thoughts on your Colts here before we move on?
Yeah, so I'll stand. I think they win the division. I think that they've improved the most among every team in the division. Yes, I know that you think, Gabe, that the Jaguars improved the most, but not yet. They will get there. But the Colts are ready to make a playoff run. Last year, people forget, with Rivers, we were challenging the Bills for a chance at the AFC Championship. So it was a close game. We're right there. And then if Wentz can be the player he once was, then I'm going to be positive. I'm going to be, we've been improving. So why not just keep being positive about the Colts? So that's what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
As you should, by the way. This is your time to shine and project the moon before we move on to somebody else who is going to project further than the moon, I assume.
Yes, let's move on here. We will let Gabe talk for a while here. And his Jaguars here finished the division 4th at 1-15. Not to rub salt in that wound, but someone's got to finish fourth every year in their division. So they lost this season. Keelan Cole, Mike Glennon, and Chris Connolly, to be determined yet, not re-signed, but Tyler Eifert, Chris Thompson, and Dede Westbrook. They brought in Carlos Hyde, Jamal Agnew, Marvin Jones, CJ Beathard, and Philip Dorsett. I know those aren't very exciting, but this is
We got
where
one
things
name
really
in
get
there.
exciting. I know, the perennially underrated Marvin Jones. I know.
Yeah.
But this is where things really get exciting, is the draft. We have the first overall pick, the second coming himself, Trevor Lawrence. Surprise pick in the first round, I feel like, for a lot of people, Travis Etienne. And then fifth round, tight end Luke Farrell. And lastly, in the sixth round, Jalen Camp. So, Gabe, why don't you take it away and give us your thoughts about your Jaguars and how you see this team is progressing here?
I was just ready to talk about the Colts for hours. I think they I mean, I like Jonathan Taylor. I kind of like Michael Pittman. As far as a Paris pun, where are my damn croissants? Like, come on.
Colts is where it's at for fantasy. In the AFC
Trey
South.
Burton, maybe he doesn't need to be a tight end. Maybe he just needs to tweet about like all the positive things that he says about Jonathan Taylor, because I like that a whole lot more than how he plays tight end, I think. Anyway, the Jaguars. This is what I'm here for, I suppose. Man, what a ride it's been. I think it's interesting, man. The Urban Meyer hiring, it's gonna be wild, and it's not exactly predictable, of course, but there's a lot of positivity gaining around it, and I think the most positive thing that can come from it is really just Trevor Lawrence. And I don't even know if like Urban Meyer can necessarily like ruin Trevor Lawrence. Like that's how good that I think that he is. And I think the only thing that could be ruined is with the offensive line. And alluding to what you said, Dustin, a very surprising pick with Travis Etienne in the first round. Hated it. Not that I hate Etienne. I just don't want to draft a running back in the first round as a football franchise. I just don't think that's worth it. We just saw our boy JT go in the second round, and he's a god. So we could have just done that or something. But anyway, here we are. And I would have rather had either a offensive tackle there or a cornerback, and then that early second round pick that was cornerback. I mean, Tevin Jenkins was there. Like,
Oh, no.
I know, man. I was frustrated after Trevor Lawrence for sure. I'm glad they addressed a little bit of the offensive line. The picks themselves were okay. So I don't know. There are positive things around it, but it's just like a whole lot of I don't know. And I'm bummed that Josh Oliver is gone, tight end, and we'll see what's up with Farrell. And I was kind of hyped for Eifert, and then that thing kind of. So now we're stuck with like Oshag Hennessy again. All right. So it's just so much I don't know, man. There's so much I don't know. And why do you draft a running back in the first round when you literally struck gold with James Robinson? Undrafted free agent running backs just don't hit like that. They just don't hit like that. Analytically, through the tape, whatever you want to assess, however you want to assess it, it just doesn't happen. And so to spend that draft capital on a first round running back is just absolutely bonkers to me. And it's almost as if they drafted this team to like win now. And I think there is a potential for them to like flirt. I forgot what their over under was at last I checked, but I think it was even after the draft still at like 5-ish, which is
Sure.
I think they could get over that. But the way that they drafted, it appears like they were going for some sort of win now mentality, with Marvin Jones there, definitely aging, but a great wide receiver to have as a complement in a winning team. I still love Shark. I still love Chenault, but like they look to be built like a win now team, and they're just not. So
Now,
I'm confident in Trevor Lawrence, but I don't know. There's a lot of I don't know still.
are you sure you want to stick with the assessment that they are not a win now team now that Tim Tebow is on the squad. Are you sure you want to
I buried the
stay?
lead there.
You were too nice to put him in the additions, but we have to talk about it.
Do we though?
I mean, we don't really, but I'm gonna push for it.
Yeah. I named all these tight ends, and then I somehow didn't mention
Josh Oliver left, and that's a real bummer. But you get to just have him slide right into that role. Obviously, no. The aging thing is really interesting with the Marvin Jones, because I do love Marvin Jones. Dustin, I think we both do. I think we're both big fans of him. But yeah, going to that team, it's like, well, I mean, he's got to go somewhere, and he's certainly got to go and get paid. So do what you got to do. But so you have no preconceptions about like, this is our year, we're going to go to the playoffs. Like, you see playoffs in the reasonable range of outcomes?
Not this year. No, I don't. But again, I think the way that they built it, they're hoping for some sort of like 7-9 sort of like wild card approach to a season. But I just like Trevor Lawrence. Like I don't even know what to do fantasy wise. I don't know what to do with ETN and James Robinson. That's really difficult. And then talking about the whole wide receiver crap. And that sounds like a lot of coach talk to me. I would, if you are interested in ETN as a player, I would be trying to acquire him off of that dip, the supposed dip that might be happening. But I also think at the same time that they are going to use both running backs, as they should. James Robinson had a great season, and they can absolutely utilize both of them. So I think it was definitely a bummer landing spot for ETN. But if you are interested in him, I think, now would be the time to buy. And Shark all the way up. Shark all the way up.
Shark Tales.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so that was going to be one of my questions for you for both redraft, because we do focus on redraft here in season on our podcast, but also talk dynasty as well. We do a little of both. So my question was going to be, would you rather have Chark or Visca for both redraft and for dynasty purposes?
Shark for both. Pretty easily for me, honestly. I like Chenault, but just coming into the NFL, there are a lot of injury. There's a lot of injury background that he has to prove still, I think. And just, I'm not sure we've seen what all that he can do yet. I think he certainly could be a 1B. I'm not sure if it's ready yet for that type of development that they're looking for. But I think this year it's safe to say it's still Shark. And because, I mean, Shark, it's not like Shark's like aging by any means. And I know it's weird that the Jaguars have this like perennial thing of like a different wide receiver is a wide receiver one on that team, like dating back from Allen Robinson and Keelan Cole
Westbrook.
and Marquise Lee and Dede Westbrook. And now it's Shark, and everyone hated Shark too. I wasn't even a huge fan of Shark, and I was completely wrong on that assessment too. But so it could be like, if you like want to believe in superstitions, then Chenault's your dude. But I think talent wise,
Marvin Jones here then.
Yeah, Marvin Jones here.
Marvin Jones here by default, I think, with that. But Dukes, are you on the same page with Chenault versus Shark? Is there one of them that you would prefer in Dynasty, let's say, for right now? Let's say at cost?
So I just want to say this offense as a whole, I actually am a little more optimistic overall than Gabe. Urban Meyer's a really creative offensive mind. I think maybe that's one thing he'll get right. I'm not sure how he's going to handle all the other head coaching duties in the NFL. But they've got some really good players here now. We were talking about 3 great wide receivers. Well, I don't know if we're ready to call Visca great yet. He's shown flashes, but I'm gonna say Chark is still the one. Marvin Jones though might, because of his veteran presence, I could see Lawrence just wanting to lean on him. I don't know. That's a possibility. But then also Visca maybe is like a big physical underneath threat, and Lawrence likes that because he's a rookie. It's so hard for me to project. I'm not familiar enough with the situation or nobody really is. It's all new.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
yeah.
It's tough to assess.
brand
I mean,
world.
yeah.
And as far as tight ends go, Luke Farrell, the rookie from Ohio State, Urban brought him in knowing a lot about him. You have to think that he beats out Tebow at least.
I was gonna ask, could I do this one real quick here, Dustin? Fair is fair. Duke's completely non-biased opinion here. If you had to take Tim Tebow versus any of the tight ends currently on the Houston Texans roster, who would you choose?
For fantasy?
Yep, for fantasy, just for this year. Would you take a shot on one of the Houston T's, or would you let Tebow grace your squad?
Maybe Brevin Jordan can be something. I don't think so, but it might be worth putting him on the end of the bench rather than Urban Meyer. If he tries some stuff with Tebow, he's got to give up on it pretty quick, don't you think?
One would hope, but I really don't know if I can say that with any assurance.
I don't know. Then again, we might all be underestimating Tebow.
Oh,
We've done it before.
woo.
Yeah, and I know, Gabe, you kind of touched on that backfield a little bit, but how do you? I mean, any feel for how it's really going to shake out this year? I know that Urban has said that Robinson, Etienne, Hyde are all going to be involved. I know Carlos Hyde, he's been, I'll use serviceable in quotes, in the past. He always just seems to stick around to eat into other running backs' production, unfortunately. And like you said, Robinson was just outstanding last year. So how do you really see in this three-headed monster that Urban wants shaking out?
Best case scenario, you get, Ingram, Kamara, that type of setup. And I think everyone tries to make that comp, and that is not that realistic. That doesn't happen very often where you get two top 12 running backs or even two top 24 running backs. That's extremely rare. I think Chubb and Hunt are the most recent. Or you could even Ingram's always on these teams, man. Ingram and Edwards too. Gus Edwards, man. So right. I don't know. I keep saying I don't know, and that's completely unfair as like as a fan or as an analyst or a fanalist or whatever you want to say. But
no, but it's true, and it comes from the heart. I don't know, so I think that's fine.
It's all going to come down, like, if we're talking redraft, I have no idea where these running backs are going as far as redraft. I would think that they're going to fall a little bit further, just considering the situation, probably both outside of the top 24 or maybe close to it. So if you are at a point where you have, you went tight end heavy, you went 4 wide receivers, and then ETN or James Robinson is sitting there, and you feel better about one or the other, I think you could swing on one for a 0 RB type of approach and hope for the best type of thing. And I don't hate that, because I think there is production there, and there is that whatever ceiling potential for one of them to be, or both of them be, top 24 running backs. Considering the offense that we're in with Urban Meyer, absolutely Dukes, I believe you were saying about Urban Meyer, that he's a great offensive mind, and he's going to make that work with the running backs that he's got. And I think they've got a good balance between Robinson and Etienne from like a football standpoint. I'm still just like Dare could have been Travis Etienne, but like,
yes, he could have.
You're thinking about you're thinking of, it could have been an offensive lineman. I believe. Yeah.
Whatever.
There was somebody slipping in the draft, and then defensive. I mean, Quidey Pay. Well, he went after that, but there were several other defensive players. So I understand what you meant with the pick value wise. But yeah, that offense I do like.
Mm-hmm. And one last question here: will Marvin Jones have value in redraft this year? Will you be able to lean on him on a consistent basis, or is he a good flex fill in?
Lean on me.
That was
we-
because we
going?
couldn't get the licensing
we-
for the
the-
lyrics, and so
Yeah.
you
I didn't want
improv'd
to.
it.
Yeah, I didn't want to.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying
Thanks
to
for
get-
not making us pay for that.
No, I know.
I believe the lyrics are "Lean on me when you got Tebow."
Oh, that took away my soul boner. You saying that right now?
Yeah, Eiffel Tower gone. All right. So I actually, yeah. I mean, I think that's possible. With Shark had his injuries last year too. I mean, and Chanel, you know that's a possibility with the lower body injuries that he's had in the past, or just general injuries in the past. So, yeah, I don't hate it. And in redraft, I'm certainly probably not drafting him. No. And late round dynasty stash or acquisition it for 3rd, 4th round pick or whatever. Like, I think I still have him on some dynasty rosters. Like, he could become fantasy relevant if one of those guys goes down. So,
All right.
I dig.
Yeah. Any final thoughts about your Jags here before we finish off the division?
I only care about Trevor Lawrence really, as far as like as a fan being excited about the franchise. So I'll say, do law.
Oh, look at that. That was nice.
Yeah,
They
that was
should make the
nice.
There you go.
shirts.
Yeah, they're coming on the way. The open
Good.
bar.
Good.
I don't know. They're not coming. I don't know.
Hey, I'm a graphic designer. If you want to work with me, my DMs are open.
Hey,
There we go.
Duke's Law.
I love
Law.
it. Do law. Do law.
All right.
Do
That's
law.
a good shirt, man.
Look at us making connections on this podcast. All right, and then we will round out the division here.
Let's steamroll through these sons of bitches, these
Yeah.
dastardly, disgusting Titans.
That's right. They
Right.
finished first in the division at 11-5. Lost some players this year, and I feel like they didn't really do much to replace them. So they lost Adam Humphries, Jonnu Smith, and Corey Davis. Have a bunch of who's who of their 7,000 tight ends on their team that they haven't re-signed yet. I won't go through those. And then they brought in Josh Reynolds and Brian Hill, and then drafted Des Fitzpatrick, wide receiver, in the 4th round, and Racey McMath in the 6th round.
That's a real name, gentlemen. That is a real name, by the way. I have to call that out. It's
It
special.
reminds me of like the back of the kids' meal. Sometimes would have some puzzles.
Yeah,
Math
I mean,
puzzles.
it does sound like a McDonald's character.
Cartoon
He
character,
goes with
yeah.
the Hamburglar and Ronald McDonald. It's Racey McMath.
To get my nuggets, you must tell me what 7 plus 9 equals. Oh, McMath, you got me again. I don't get it.
Race me around the track.
How many laps?
McDonald's, if you're listening, you can all pay us equally for that genius idea there.
Free marketing. God.
And apologies to Racey McMath's mother for that.
All right, so I want to start off with, how will the loss of Corey Davis and Jonnu affect this offense?
I think it's big, kind of, really. I mean, those were safety nets for Ryan Tannehill. Dump off season, between Jonnu and Corey Davis. Jonnu was injured a little bit, but I feel like Corey Davis kind of replaced Jonnu Smith for his notable, finally his notable. Do you have a wide receiver 2 season, or at least close to it?
Close,
So
like 30.
And Humphries is fine for just a NFL player, I think. So that's huge. Like their 2nd, 3rd, and 4th targets are gone, which is wild. It's great, hopefully, for AJ Brown, but it's wild to lose that type of depth at your wide receiver core, because Derrick Henry, I mean, he can, but maybe I don't know.
4,000-yard Derrick Henry
Julio.
rushing season coming through.
Julio. Oh, he's got the JT numbers. Okay.
That's right. Do we think it's realistic that, I mean, the teams are down to the Patriots and Titans for Julio. Do we think it makes sense I know it's all speculation, but does it make sense if Julio steps in there tomorrow? The trade goes through June 1st, probably when it actually goes through. Like, are you excited still about AJ Brown if somebody like Julio is there? Are you still fully up on AJ Brown? Okay.
Yes.
Absolutely,
Calvin
yeah.
Ridley. But AJ Brown's better.
I was kind of excited that Josh Reynolds almost made it. Well, he's till now he has made it through the draft. I mean, Des Fitzpatrick, whatever. But Josh Reynolds, talk about fantasy off seasons for all fantasy off seasons. He gets away from that crowded Rams wide receiver room that became more crowded, and lo and behold, here he is. It's AJ Brown, and then what? No tight ends. I mean, Ferkser, which I just realized he's not signed yet.
They have to sign him.
Yeah, they've got to.
They will.
And he'll be more of a receiver than a blocker. But I was going to say that's also another way that Gabe didn't mention that loss of John is going to affect the team. He's a great run blocker. So
Ferkser had a nice little season.
maybe Henry 3,500 yards would be more modest.
Sure. All right, I'll concede. I'll take that. Yeah, but Ferkser, you're right, Gabe. He did have a good little season there when Jonnu just disappeared. Because I don't know why. We were so frustrated. Dustin, especially, you were so frustrated.
I still don't want to talk about it.
Jonnu was like the tight end 2 or something for the first 6-7 weeks of the season, and then just full turd mode from there on out to close out the season. But then Ferkser came through like a little turdy diamond popping out of that mess. And so, yeah, Josh Reynolds is still there and obviously going to get a lot of targets, but then Ferkser is still there, presumably, and probably going to get a lot of targets. Can I ask what everybody thinks about Ryan Tannehill then, if this is what this depth chart looks like? Do we have the same high hopes for Tannehill?
I've been avoiding him in drafts. He's going way too high. I don't understand. No thanks.
Fair enough.
So at 101 Chalk of the Undroppables has been telling us for a long time, fade Tannehill. It's going downhill from here. We've had a great Tannehill for too long, and I think I'm starting to see that he might be right.
Now that the elite Corey Davis is gone, because he did finally have a good season last year. But yeah, I'm nervous as well. Like, I finally got to the point where I feel comfortable ranking Baker Mayfield over Ryan Tannehill, and that took some internal navigation. That took some soul searching to get to that strength. But I think I'm there now.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you guys. I just, with the loss of those receiving options, and then just Henry not being a receiving option out of the backfield. I mean, that's just, that's a tough hill to overcome there. And speaking of Henry, is this going to be the year he hits the cliff? I mean, we've expected for a couple years here at least, he can't keep up with this. We all know he is a ginormous freak of nature that can't be stopped and just loves to stiff arm people straight into the ground. But he hasn't showed any signs of slowing down yet. So could this be the year he finally hits that cliff, or do we expect Henry just to keep doing what Henry does and bulldozing people all over the field?
I mean, it better be a cliff if people are like really fading him, because 2,000 yards. I mean, for it to be a cliff, he would have to like go below 1,000 yards, and that's like your RB 24 or something, So like, I mean, you can have a 1,200 yard season, and he's probably still going to get so much of the goal line work. So if you believe in the Titans' ability to produce and to score and possibly win this division, apparently not Duke's, because the Colts are, godly in some way, shape, or form with Carson Wentz. He couldn't even beat Mo Alley Cox in what's that game called? Lightning.
Knockout?
Did you see that? Knockout. Yeah. Yeah. Come on. That's your quarterback. That's your quarterback.
Hey, Mo Alley
That's
Cox
your quarterback?
played basketball.
I know he did.
That's true.
I know.
I want to see a Mo Alley Cox
He played 4 or 5.
I want to see Mo Alley Cox versus